Last spring, the New York Times published an article that touted a 4-decade-long decline in gun ownership. This article is often used by gun control advocates to argue that reasonable gun control is being blocked by a small but vocal minority. It's based on data from the 2012 General Social Survey that shows gun ownership in the U.S. has declined from 49% of households owning a gun in 1973 to 34% in 2012.
That was an excerpt from NRA News about the new General Social Survey conducted by the National Opinion Research Center. The report, as you just heard, claiming that since 1970, the amount of homes with firearms has declined. As we continue now on America's Forum, the NRA video went on to say the survey is bogus, the data is flawed, and the NRA is not the only organization that shares that opinion. For his point of view, we're joined by the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, my good friend, the former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, Richard Mack, and we're also rejoined by health policy expert Betsy McCoy from Newsmax, New York. Richard, it is great to have you here on our program. And what about this survey? How misleading is it?
Well, JD, you know, as a former congressman and all the work you've done, you know polls are always correct and truthful and completely 100% accurate. First of all, this doesn't jive with historical fact. Since Obama's been in office, sales of guns, including what they call assault rifles, have skyrocketed throughout world history. There's never been a time where more guns have been sold and more ammunition. In fact, you couldn't even get ammunition, and now the federal government's buying up ammunition, but that's another story. But this is the thing. We also have two unprecedented stories from major metropolitan areas in the United States that simply do not coincide with the information in this poll. One, and this is in my book, by the way, Are You a David? My new book, Are You a David? And it's, I quote chiefs of police and sheriffs in this country who are promoting gun ownership. Chief James Craig in Detroit, he's saying that gun ownership, especially in the black community, have resulted in a huge reduction in crime in his city, which they've never seen before.
Well, Sheriff, isn't it true that many people simply aren't registering their guns or are reluctant to tell the government that they have a gun because people like Obama are clapping down on gun ownership so much? You can see that the sales are going up even if the registrations aren't.
Well, that's exactly the case. Most gun owners don't trust Obama. They don't trust any rumors about registration. They won't register their guns. Many of us won't. I don't. And luckily in Arizona, you don't have to. But this is the thing. Gun registration, and you send a pollster out to talk to a gun owner, even if they were polling them outside a gun show, they're not going to tell you, oh yeah, I just got my new gun and I'm a new gun owner and for the first time in my life, I now have a gun in my home. Please tell Barack Obama and the BATF. They're not going to do that. Yeah. And so there's all sorts of things that just don't jive. And the other one is Sheriff David A. Clark Jr., who, JD, you know very well. He's touting gun ownership by his citizens. This is unprecedented that Detroit and Milwaukee are actually pushing for gun ownership, and we have evidence that is happening, and this poll just doesn't jive. But the poll does one other thing. It talks about how, according to gun grabbers, gun ownership is down in homes. Then why do we need more laws? People are doing it on their own. They don't need your stupid laws, and you don't need to violate the Second Amendment in order to achieve your goals, do you? So just leave us alone, go home. Let's make this very clear, like I do in my book. Gun control in America is against the law. The supreme law of the land does not allow for gun control in America.
We've got about 3 minutes remaining, Richard, and I just want to get to another story. Of course, the past couple of weeks, we heard that BATF wanted to ban some hunting ammo. But apparently the Democrats are going to go another route. One of my old colleagues in the House, Steve Israel, has introduced, now get the name of this, the Modernized Law Enforcement Protection Act that would ban any handgun ammo that might penetrate body armor. Here's what Congressman Israel says. The Second Amendment, which I support, had well-intended 18th century protections, but we live in a world with 21st century criminals and increasingly lethal weapons. Richard, you're a former law enforcement officer. Do you agree with what Steve Israel's trying to do?
No, and JD, you know that this stupid issue has come up numerous times over the last 20, 30 years. Let's get rid of armor-piercing ammunition, and let's get rid of the ugly ammunition. And they actually believe, and this is what Israel's kind of alluding to in his ridiculous law, or at least proposed legislation, that the Second Amendment does not protect ammunition; it just protects the gun. So they're going to regulate ammunition out of existence, and that's what they're trying to do. That's what he's hoping to do.
Sheriff, let me jump in for a second. I want to ask you an interesting question. I hear from so many physicians and patients that doctors are being pushed to ask their patients, do you keep a gun in your home? Are you getting a lot of complaints about that?
Well, doctors having anything to do with that is completely out of line, and I know a lot of people who have quit their doctors because they actually ask them if they have guns or guns in the home, and they're trying to make it a health issue, and it's simply none of their business. And my doctors know better than to ask me that, and if they did, I'd be looking for a doctor.
There was another thing.
I always give my doctor a copy of my latest book on gun control and how the dangers of gun.
Fair enough. Hey, 1 minute remains, and my successor, once removed in the Congress, David Schweikert of Arizona, has introduced legislation to take away money for the administration spending and targeting firearm industry through Operation Choke Point. 30 seconds remain, Richard. Do we need to choke off Operation Choke Point?
Yeah, probably. We need to put a chokehold on a lot of these gun grabbers. And the thing of it is, a lot of it is working itself out, and the statistics are very clear, JD. Gun ownership, and especially a gun in your home, makes you safer. And the liberals just hate that, and they try to manipulate the statistics the other way.
Richard Mack, former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona. Sir, we thank you for your time. When we come back, the not-so-secret problems of the Secret Service. That's ahead following this Newsmax Now update.